Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to Lost in the Wasteland, my weekly interview show where I get to learn a little bit more about somebody else's perspective on movies. And I have a special guest. We have actor Nigel Butler. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. This is pretty cool.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk a little bit about Nigel's new film, Buried on Shine Mountain, and then jump into learning a little bit more about Nigel himself. But Nigel, if you just want to introduce yourself and a little bit about the film.
Yeah, like you said, I'm an aspiring actor, producer, and my brother directed a new film
Mm.
called Buried on Shine Mountain, and I was able to play a part in it. And that's kind of what we're talking about. It's a western that I guess I would say is stylized like a '40s western, you could say.
Mhm.
You know, and it's kind of got that tone and that orchestration and the whole script. And I'm allowed to say that because I didn't write it, but I think it's worth a watch. I think it's a lot of fun, and I think it's something that's kind of unique. So. I mean, I don't know how much we want to spoil it and all that, but yeah, that's a little bit about me. That's what we're doing, you know.
But yeah, we'll certainly keep some of the surprises for people to go check out the film. But I definitely was getting a Treasure of the Sierra Madre kind of vibe in terms of like that old school Hollywood Western and also that idea of like going out into the wilderness and just, you have that deeply human conflict of when valuable things get in the way of people's interactions with each other. But I guess obviously your brother made the film, and what inspired you most to be part of this project with him?
Well, I love westerns also, and so
Okay.
that was the big draw. But the reality is, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, when I first got the script, and he didn't tell me what part he wanted me to play and everything like that, and I just kind of read through it, and I didn't really get it, you know, I
Mm,
because I didn't realize how he wanted to shoot it. I didn't realize
yeah.
sort of the setting, so I was kind of like, oh, this is it's a thing, you know. I didn't get it, so really initially it was just kind of because well, Stuart believes in it and it's his film, and you know he's done plenty of my stuff, so you know let's do
Yeah.
it. But then once it started to come together, and John Stedman, the other producer on it of the three of us, um, he really helped the kind of the vision come to life. And once I started seeing where we were filming things on location, scouts, and everything, it sort of came together in my mind. I was like, okay, this is what we're doing, you know. Kind of
Mhm.
clicked there.
Absolutely. And especially with how this film is set up, obviously you spend a lot of time with Gunnar Dalton throughout this film. What were you going into like obviously when you have two characters who are kind of like attached in terms of this partnership and stuff. What was it like being a part of that kind of duo and the process of bringing these two characters to life?
That was probably the easiest and most difficult thing I've ever done because Gunnar is one of my oldest friends ever. You know,
Hmm.
I've known him since I don't even know when I first met Gunnar. So it was absolutely a lot of fun doing that whole movie and the grueling 12-hour shoot days and everything like that with him of all people. So it was a lot of fun, you know, and the little bits of joy I would get on hour number
Hmm.
9 when he was in a little bit of pain, you know, kind of helped get us through. So no, that was really easy because I've known him forever. You know, he's a very good friend, and so that kind of clicked naturally. It was
Hmm.
really bringing in that Kurt Carter character played by Kyle
Yeah.
that that really worked naturally because he, you know, I already, like I said, I know Gunnar very well. I don't know Kyle, you know, and so that dynamic was already set up kind of from the get go. So that was pretty cool, actually. But
Well,
I wish I could tell you it was a grueling thing and it took a lot of practice, but no, it's pretty natural.
Well, and I think that came off in the film as well because like you have these two characters and then you have this third element that gets added into the equation that starts building up that tension. So I imagine that kind of experience for you as actors too, where you already have this relationship with Gunnar and then still feeling things out. I think that works and plays out naturally. And I know you
Agreed.
mentioned you're a fan of Westerns. Obviously, Stewart was the one that was directing the film and everything, but do you feel like there's particular films that you or him were drawing upon in terms of any kind of influences for this?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned. I mean, a lot of Humphrey Bogart's films is my brother
Yeah.
loves them. They were inspired heavily by, well, they weren't inspired by his writing. He was inspired
Yeah.
by by their writing. But I really I like a lot of westerns. Probably my favorite would be like Rio Bravo,
Okay.
something like that, which is probably 20 years later, you know, in cinema than the film that we were making. So it was a little bit of a different tone. But The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance is kind of similar to our film as far as tone goes, not plot or anything like that.
Yeah.
But so I mean, things like that can inspire the acting. But by the time you, for me anyway, by the time I got to the point where I figured out what we were doing, like I
Mhm.
say, I really kind of understood the film as its own thing. So I didn't really have to draw on too much inspiration from other things. But I mean, probably subconsciously it all comes through, right?
Yeah.
Because everything you've seen and understand it to be.
Well,
But
and
yeah,
I think that's always very interesting too, because like I haven't gotten as far as actually making anything, but like I've dabbled in like screenwriting and stuff, and you kind of just naturally, if you watch so many movies, you kind of naturally just draw upon things and
oh yeah,
they kind of seep into your creative process. But that does not surprise me, the your brother's big influence of Humphrey Bogart films, because those kind of like gritty kind of western,
yeah,
because like Humphrey Bogart was not like your big handsome leading man of like a western kind of vibe. They were like grittier and
yeah.
a little seedier and a little bit darker in terms of some of the things they were exploring. And
And the
obviously,
way, let me ask you this: do you
yeah.
think that the like when you're writing stuff like that, the way the dialogue is in this film is kind of similar to some of those Humphrey Bogart speeches, and you know what I mean? I kind of I hear that. I didn't notice that until you were talking about it just now. I was like, wait, even the dialogue is kind of leaning that way.
Well, and I think you just draw upon things. And also, I think it's always interesting when you connect with a filmmaker and you might have the same type of sense of humor or have the same sensibilities about your view. Because, like, I'm a big Coen Brothers fan.
Yeah,
I'm very much more like a dry kind of humor type of
yeah,
person, and that's them. It's like sure they have an interesting mix of being influenced by old school screwball comedies too that are very
yeah.
big and exaggerated, but a lot of them, like you watch their film True Grit, all the humor is like dry and like biting and stuff like that, because that film's a very intense, gritty gritty kind of western, similar to like a Treasure of Sierra Madre, where it's not like people aren't wearing like big sequins cowboy suits and stuff like that where it's like big and bold. And I went through a whole entire journey on my YouTube channel because I have another show where I take a deep dive into a filmmaker, and I watched
Okay,
80 John Ford films
okay,
from start to finish. That was a long journey. But like his westerns were very much more bright and vibrant and really
yeah.
capturing just the beauty of the West. Or you have something like The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, which I know that was like budget reasons. They were like, you're going to shoot this on a set
I
and you're going to
know that
use
that's
black
why.
and white, so he was much more restricted, and that one's
Hmm.
feels a little bit grittier and more intense, and it's a darker film, and
Yeah,
it plays with some moral ambiguity. And I think any type of film that deals with like prospecting and greed and those kinds of things, because that brings out the worst in people. Whether it's, something like Treasure of Sierra Madre or There Will Be Blood is a very similar kind of idea. It's a little bit further into the future, early 1900s, but it's still out in the frontier fighting for
same
oil
deal.
and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I could definitely feel those things. And I always like to ask, as a little bit of wrap up talking about a film. So, Nigel, if you could give one reason why people should go check out Buried on Shine Mountain, why should they go check out this Western?
Um, I would say because I don't think there's anything like it being made today. I can't think of another film that I've seen recently, and by recently I mean last 5 years even,
Yeah.
that's newer. I might have rewatched one of those old westerns
Yeah.
probably quite recently, but you know, I can't think of anything else quite like it. And even the old ones, I find I have a hard time finding something exactly like this film. It's
Mhm.
kind of different, which is sort of why I had a hard time understanding it at first, probably. But I would say that I'd say if you like any sort of the style of the films we've been talking about, then you'll probably enjoy this film, and I hope you do. And I think we put a lot of effort into it, and I think we've got some good characters, and
Mhm.
I think, and I'll ask you. I mean, I guess you probably haven't seen some of the other things I've done, but I think this is the best ending of any film I've been in. I love the ending so much.
Mhm.
If the rest of the movie, if I didn't like it, I love the ending.
Well, and that's the hardest thing to make work. And it's
Yeah.
so hard to be able, like, you could tell this whole entire story, but how do you wrap that up and give either a satisfying or impactful kind of ending to it? And I think to your point, Nigel, that's a very big driving factor about this film is you're not going to see a whole lot of films like this anymore. And I know we were chatting a little bit, it's like westerns don't get made as often, and especially if they do, they are leaning much more into like neo-western, more modern kind of setting.
Yeah.
Like Taylor Sheridan's probably the biggest person still making Western films and television at this point, and he makes a bit of a mix of some more period westerns and neo westerns. But
Yeah.
I know I'm always excited when I see a western coming out. I'm like,
Me too.
I'm ready. It's like haven't seen one in a while, so
Yeah.
hopefully people go check out this one, and I think it's certainly worth a watch for sure.
Well, thank you. I hope so. I think it's a fair film, you know? Hey, did you see
Absolutely.
Eddington?
I did. So speaking of what like neo
That's a
westerns
modern day
and
wet, but yeah.
yeah, and that's very interesting. It as the film went on, it certainly got way more being into a Western than I anticipated.
Yeah, I agree.
Because like obviously it's set during the pandemic and dealing with a lot of those things, but it really goes full blown into Western tropes and motifs and stuff like that. And
100%.
that third act of that movie is so intense. And I'm like, I haven't seen a shootout in a Western like this in a long time. And
Yeah,
I I love that. That was something special to me. It's
I
so
agree.
funny because I heard a lot of the other like I saw that at a press screening. A lot of the critics were like, I was so much more interested at the beginning of the film, and I felt like I lost way. I'm like, felt like it like started violin and really started getting to where it really wanted to be. So maybe that's just I love westerns, and it really turned into one.
I like the whole thing.
Yeah,
I mean, the very very ending we could talk about. I don't know, but the third act I like, you know, for the most part.
yeah,
But what I liked about it also was the stylistic choice, like having the masks, COVID masks for the bandanas for people. Like it was
yeah,
just so cool. You know, it's like, yeah, why didn't anyone think of this? You know, but it
yeah.
was really kind of a neat film.
That whole final shootout in that town was
Yeah,
shot so well. And I'm like, I was sitting there in the theater, I'm like, I feel so tense right now because it's like he's
you were there.
turning, we're turning. I'm like, who's gonna be around the corner when we turn around this building?
Sure.
So it was that was so great, so well done.
Yeah.
But I guess, Nigel, if you're ready, are you ready to for us to learn a little bit more about you?
Let's find out. You know, let's find out.
Well, I always like to ask this question, and not everybody loves trying to hone in and answer this, but what's your favorite film?
You know, you warned me this question was coming, and I thought about it. And usually, my stock answer is the Lord of the Rings. You know, I see them all as
Okay.
one film because I've never seen anything like it. Even 20 years later, the spectacle, the just the beauty. You know, I mean, you want to talk about art? That's really art.
Hmm.
The way it's written, everything, the performances, the music. But I also really like Rocky a lot. You know, Stallone's
Yeah,
Rocky, and then Nobody's Fool with Paul Newman. So I had a hard time narrowing it down exactly.
that's understandable, and most people do. And it's funny because The Lord of the Rings are also my favorite films.
But they're beautiful.
Um,
They're wonderful.
it's you're absolutely right. We have not seen anything like that since,
No,
and it's so impressive how they literally did everything great. Like you just take it for granted that every piece of that works perfectly how it's supposed to
I
and
know.
all comes together. It's wild that like well we showed up in New Zealand for just about a year, filmed three movies, and let's hope they work.
It's crazy.
And
Yeah,
it all came together. And I always argue live action fantasy is one of the hardest things to make work on film because you have to get your whole audience to buy in to a completely new world and
yeah,
everything and so much world building. And it's just nothing has reached that. And basically the
great.
most famous fantasy since then is Game of Thrones, and that's a completely different type of approach to telling fantasy. But Lord of the Rings have always been special to me for sure.
I
And
agree.
also, I'm an Italian American from like outside of Philadelphia, so like
Of course, Rock.
Rocky's in my blood.
No,
So
that's a great movie too, though. I mean, it's
it
the
is.
it feels both those movies. What I like about them is they have great characters and they feel real. You know,
Yes.
even though, and that's the thing you're talking about with the fantasy. A lot of times when you see a fantasy movie, you're like, well, that's just a crock. That doesn't even look, you know. But it all feels
Somebody's in a
so
costume
comfortable.
running
Yeah,
around.
exactly.
Yeah.
But you're like, it feels like that's a real place I could go to, I could visit, I could live in, or not want to live in. And Rocky's the
Some of
same.
those places not want to live in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know, Mordor, don't really want to go there. But hey, Hunt for Gollum, you hear about that?
I have reservations, but we'll see how that goes, to be
I I,
honest.
I feel the same. I have hopeful, nervous anticipation. You know what I mean?
I'm at the point where if anything comes out that's Middle Earth related, I'm gonna want to see it. That doesn't mean I'm not worried about how it's gonna turn
I,
out. And I feel like that's kind of where I'm at with this.
I do
So
agree.
we'll see. But no, the first Rocky movie, I think people take for granted that because like by Rocky 4, it's a 90-minute movie that's just montages and like music videos and stuff like that, which is still a fun time.
It's a lot of fun.
But
Yeah,
that first movie is so gritty and real and raw. It's drama that
yeah,
happens to have a boxing match at the end of it. So
yeah,
like that's what it feels like. And being somebody who has a lot of Philly Italians in my family, it's like it feels very authentic to be perfectly
yeah.
honest. So
He's such a
definitely
likable
understand.
character, even with all his
Yes.
flaws. You know, but it's
Mhm.
crazy.
Now, turning things back, what's your earliest memory of going to the movies?
You know, I thought about that too. I would have to say, if I'm being perfectly honest,
Hmm,
cartoon, The Pirates Who Don't Do Anything, Veggie Tales back when I was a kid.
nice.
You know, but I don't know if that's actually the earliest or just the earliest I can think of. You know what I mean? But I
Yeah.
mean that's there. I mean, I know that was a while ago, so I'll say that. I mean,
Well, and I think that's a pretty common thing where it's just like I think 99% of these answers that I get for this are either animated movies or Star Wars. So it's like
yeah, that's a good point. Well, The
it's that
Hobbit.
kind of
Also, when
experience.
did The Hobbit come out? That's 2012, so I'd be
Yeah,
10. You know, I don't know, but you know, some of those saw and so I don't know.
absolutely. And like I know my first movie I ever went to what it was. I don't remember the experience at all. But then I do remember seeing Space Jam in like the fourth row because we got there late, and it's just like Michael Jordan.
That was it.
Um, yep, that's my earliest one I actually remember
Okay.
the experience of. Now,
What was
a
the
couple
earliest
of
you don't remember the experience of, or do you not know?
so I know that I saw Indian in the Cupboard at a one-screen movie theater that used to exist in my hometown in Han Township,
Okay.
except shortly after that it went out of business and they tore it down and it was an empty lot for years and I think it's an urgent care now. So like
Love that for you. Yeah, that's
yeah,
awesome.
one of those kind of it's just like a sad story. It's just like, yep, it's just countless urgent cares everywhere. Now, I have a couple of like favorite type questions.
Yeah.
Do you have a particular I know we talked about westerns. I don't know if it's your favorite, but do you have a favorite genre of movies?
I don't. I like I would say as a rule probably character
Mhm.
pieces, but that's just an
Okay.
excuse. That's an excuse for me to say I care about the characters more than anything else. Because like obviously Lord of the Rings isn't really a character piece; it just has great characters. So
Yeah.
um, Rocky, I would say, is a character piece.
Hmm.
Um, but I would say that probably.
Okay.
I like. I mean, I guess you could say anything. I like anything done well. You know, nobody
Mhm.
likes nobody likes crappy action or crappy horror, but everyone likes a good action film, and most people like a good horror film. So you know, but
Horror can be a little bit harder of a sell, but like, yeah, the point
well,
of like
because
a
there's
good
such a
horror film.
range. You don't know what someone's talking about when they say it's a horror movie. It could be Alfred Hitchcock suspense sort of thriller, or it could be a slasher film. You know, and I'm not a fan of slasher films. I probably won't go see any of them, but you'll definitely see me at most all the thrillers that come out, like you
Mhm.
know, Weapons or something we talked about.
Yeah. I learned the hard way that my brother doesn't love horror movies. He loves slasher movies. I
Uh,
know this now. So like he was like, "Do you have any horror movies to recommend me?" And I recommended like Suspiria and Midsummer, and he's just like, "What the hell did you have me watch?" So like I understand like because like my brothers watch literally every single Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm
okay,
Street. Like he loves that, especially like 80s, like
yeah.
80s slashers and stuff like that into the 90s and like Scream as well. But like that's the thing about horror, it is such a wide range. And I know some people it's like if there's ghosts or spirits or demons or anything, it's like, nope. I'm out of this. And
Yeah,
those are honestly the ones that scare me the most. It's like the unknown. Like I
yeah,
don't want to know about these things kind
yeah,
of thing.
yeah. Did you see the new Conjuring yet?
I did. I'm actually a big fan of the Conjuring movies.
Okay,
Conjuring 2 is one of my favorite horror films. I felt very satisfied, and I thought it
good.
was a nice way to wrap up the story, especially because the third one, I appreciated that they were trying to do something different,
Mm,
but I didn't love it. I didn't particularly like it a whole lot. I
yeah,
know it's getting the Last Rites is getting a lot of like middling reviews and stuff like that, but had the largest horror movie a worldwide box office opening of all time, which is wild to
did it
me.
really?
Yeah, it broke its record, and I'm just like that. I did not see that coming.
No, I didn't even know that happened. That's crazy.
It's
Well, the
crazy.
news has been overrun with some other things recently, but
Yeah,
that's you know,
but it's a year for horror movies for sure between
I
Sinners and
agree.
Heathens and this. So
Did you see Long Legs while we're on the topic? Then we'll switch over.
I sure did.
What
And
do you think?
my wife and I are huge Nick Cage fans, so like I was sold to begin with. Like
Thank
Nick
you.
Cage playing a serial killer. What? Um, I think it got a little clunky towards the end, but it did make me really appreciate Oz Perkins as a filmmaker. And then The Monkey came out, which was
I haven't
wild.
seen that one yet. Was that good?
It's I think you can tell that it was a short story kind of stretched out, but it's a completely different tone. It is completely over the top, bonkers, violent, ridiculous.
Huh?
So it's like very darkly funny kind of experience, which I didn't expect from Oz Perkins because the films all the way up to that point have all been like really dark and demented kind
Yeah,
of horror films. So I appreciate that he has some range there in what he can do. I think the monkey loses some of its momentum towards the end, but like it's a
yeah.
fun ride. Like if you love crazy horror comedy over the top kind of stuff, it's a fun time for sure.
Well, I hear what you're saying though with the short story thing because I've only seen well, I shouldn't say only because then I'll think of something else later and I'll be like crap. But like Secret Window with Johnny Depp is the only horror thriller short story I've seen that was stretched out so perfectly I didn't even realize it. You know what I mean? I'm sure there are others, but it's very hard to do when you find something that's like 5 pages or 10 pages and you're trying to make a 100
Make a
page
whole
script out of it. Yeah,
and it's like sometimes working. They're always going to keep doing that with Stephen King
yeah,
writings too because he's a legend and has a lot of great material to work with.
yeah.
Now, thinking about behind the camera, do you have a particular favorite filmmaker?
I I don't. I like a lot of them, obviously, and then
Fair.
there are a few I really dislike. I think even every filmmaker, to an extent, probably has a film or something that I enjoy about them.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And then I find some filmmakers are so good that even if I don't like the movie, I like parts of the movie. So it's
Yeah,
hard to narrow it down. I'll say Peter Jackson just because he directed my favorite films of all time,
yeah,
and he did that, almost with zero experience in that genre. And so
yeah.
that's
You feel the little bits of horror that he brought into the equation because there's
yeah,
some freaky moments in Lord of the Rings. I'm
for
like,
sure. But it adds
which
to the range of it, man. It's
yeah. Well, and I think that's fun actually because I've gone back and watched some of his early horror films, and because there's
what's the best one?
so well, I've seen Brain Dead, and it's so ridiculously over the top, or Dead Alive, whichever it's called, wherever, because I know it has different titles, places.
Okay.
It's so it's like Evil Dead level of just gory, ridiculous comedy horror over the top. Because then you get some of those moments like when Frodo falls in that marsh and those ghosts are there. I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
it's terrifying. Or,
That's true.
scary Bilbo.
Yeah, that's a good. That scared everybody as a kid. I know it did.
Yep,
Like,
100%. On Peter Jackson, he's been on this streak of documentaries, whether it was that World War One documentary
they
he
shall
made.
not grow old, or we shall not
Yeah.
grow old.
And
Okay,
then the whole Beatles thing that he wound up
I
doing.
didn't see
So
that.
if you love the Beatles, you'll eat up every second of it.
Okay,
Like I respect the Beatles a lot. I don't know if I needed to sit for 9 hours just watching the Beatles do their thing, but there's some
nine
really
hours.
well, because it was broken out into pieces over the course of like a Thanksgiving weekend. I spent way too much time that weekend watching
Yeah,
that. It's on Disney Plus, and there's some really interesting stuff because I'm a big fan of music, so like peeking behind the curtain, but like I personally probably would have enjoyed an abridged version. But like I know
I
some
like the
people are big
extended edition,
Beatles.
man. No.
He just released the extended edition. I think he went straight there. So that's how it felt, honestly. Now, obviously you act in front of the camera. Do you have particular favorite actors or actresses?
um, I wouldn't say I have a favorite. I have a lot I like, and I like them for different reasons and different
Mhm.
genres. But if I'm gonna name one, I would say Paul Newman. I like Paul Newman a lot. You know, Cool and Luke, Butch Cassidy, Nobody's
Mhm.
Fool, like I mentioned. I think
Yeah.
Nobody's Fool. If you've ever seen it or never seen it, you should watch it. It's a '90s film. It's him, Bruce Willis, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Jessica Tandy. It's a very
Interesting.
very nice movie, and I think it's one of those movies I could turn on anytime. You know what I mean, and just watch it.
Yeah.
But
I I'm such a huge fan of Paul Newman. I took a film class in high school, and the first thing we watched was Cool Hand Luke,
wonderful,
and
wonderful.
just blew me away. And I'm a I'm probably a bigger fan than most of The Color of Money.
Yes,
Um, I'm a
yeah,
I'm such a big fan of The Hustler, and I thought The Color of Money was such a great follow-up. And the fact that
yeah.
like Scorsese made it and him and Tom Cruise are such an interesting dynamic. But God, one of my favorite endings to a movie is that when he just racks it up and he just shoots it and he looks so cool and he's gonna win.
I'm back.
And you
Yeah,
just I'm back. Just the fact that like between that and Butch Cassidy and Absence of Malice and The Verdict, there's just so many great things. And I remember seeing Road to Perdition in that film class too. And
yeah,
that was his last live action performance. And he was so good in that movie still.
yeah.
I'm just like, he had it all the way up until the end. Even Cars, where he
Yeah.
voices the Hudson Hornet, is just like anything he did was great. Even like him popping up in Silent Movie from Mel Brooks as himself, with a cast on his leg, riding around in a motor powered wheelchair like a race car.
Really? I didn't see that one. That's good.
It's a silly movie from
Oh
start to
yeah.
finish.
Totally,
It
but
basically is just an excuse to have like James Caan's in it, Paul Newman's in it. There's just so many famous people in it, and it is a fun, silly time. Now, thinking about, is there a particular film that you feel like you just watch like every day?
I could watch or I do watch.
You could watch.
Well, I already said Nobody's Fool, so I got to stick with that. I It's really such a nice film. Anytime it's on, I think it's on Tubi now. I saw it just the other day, and I was just
Okay.
sitting there. I saw it on there, and I had to turn it on. It's just, for me, it's just a nice film. But there are a lot of films like that I probably, whenever I turn it on, I don't sit through the whole thing.
Mhm.
It's a very bad habit I'm into. That's why I like going to the theaters because when I show up there, I'm going to stay for the whole movie. You know, I've
Yeah.
walked out of maybe two movies my whole life, and I could name them, but that's not fair to the filmmakers and all
Yeah.
the people who put in a lot of time. But but you know, if I was gonna decide a movie for somebody to watch, it would probably be, Lord of the Rings, Rocky, Nobody's Fool, one of those films, you know.
Mhm.
So I'll say that, but I don't spend a ton of time uh, rewatching stuff as much as I would like to, probably, because it's
Mhm.
hard for me to excuse it. You know, when I start to watch something, I'm like, this is great, but I got nine other things to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas if it's something I've never seen before, I can excuse it in my head, like, oh, this is a different story. I've never gone on this journey before or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and I most of the time I rewatch movies because of podcasts and stuff like that.
Okay.
And I'm like 100% like the biggest motivation I made a podcast just to go through my favorite movies, which gives me an excuse that once a month I watch one of my favorite movies. And you
What's
make
your favorite?
excuses. So like the Lord of the Rings, they were like the first three episodes that I did of that
Right.
podcast. So like I was so ready to go, and I love them. I love Mad Max Fury Road. If anybody couldn't tell, I love Mad Max based off of all the branding of everything that I do. The Wasteland,
Sure, yeah.
that's where that comes from. I'm a big 2001: A Space Odyssey fan, which is interesting because I know you mentioned you're so like the character really works for you. It's a film like devoid of any characterization except for now the evil AI. But
Yeah,
like that's one of those kinds of things where it's just like a technical marvel and a
yeah,
thematic experience and just an overall experience. Usually the thing that like I love Shrek, and Shrek 2. But like 2001 was a very formative year for me because Fellowship of the Ring, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and Shrek all came out the same year. And I was
Yeah,
10 years old, and all of them have become such big parts of like my life and my experience. But
yeah.
I Shrek's hilarious. So I go, those are usually the ones like I could watch literally every day. I could probably quote Shrek from start to finish, but I'm not going to do that. Uh, so there you go. Now, what's a film that you connect with because it relates to another interest of yours?
Anything about golf?
Okay.
Caddyshack. I like golfing a lot. I'm not very
Mhm.
good, but
Fair.
I enjoy getting out and playing. If I could get out every weekend or a couple times a week, that's nice, you know. Last week I was able to. This weekend not looking like it, you know. So I
Yeah.
kind of gotta get a little bit better. But yeah, I like golf. I like music too. Walk the Line about Johnny Cash is a great movie because
Yeah.
I love Johnny Cash. So basically, there's a lot of things, but I'll say as a rule, golf. You know.
I in James Mangold, I trust if he's gonna make a music biopic, I'm down. Because
Yeah,
between Walk the Line and A Complete Unknown, he just has that very old school feeling of filmmaking that I think captures that era very well.
yeah.
For sure. And I'm not a big golfer. I'm a big mini golfer. Like the one thing that I want to do anytime I go down the shore, I'm like, I want to play some mini golf. But
Yeah,
like honestly, some of the best sports comedies are golf movies, oddly enough. If you're thinking about Caddyshack or like Happy Gilmore and stuff like that.
yeah.
I guess they gotta liven up the sport and try to sell it to people, I guess.
Yeah, if you're not a golfer, you probably wouldn't want to see it. And like, admittedly, that doesn't mean I go see every golf movie that comes out either. You know what I mean? So they do have to have something
Mhm.
solid. I just, I like good movies about making movies. I don't like all of them. Some of them are a little bit
Yeah,
pretentious, but I like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Love that movie. I'm sorry,
yeah.
I know some people don't. I love it, but those kinds of films.
I felt like that was a movie that Quentin Tarantino was born to make. It just felt
Really?
like
Yeah,
I felt like he was in his element the whole entire time making that movie. And for like 95% of it, it felt like his most mature movie where he was just like really just appreciating the era and everything. And then he's like in the last
I know
like
what
the
you
tail
mean.
end, I'm like, well, I gotta make it a little bit
I got to do my
this.
thing, guys. Yeah,
And then it got crazy,
yeah,
which not gonna lie, I thought that was wildly funny.
yeah,
Just,
yeah,
Leonardo DiCaprio casually walking out with a flamethrower. Just being
yeah.
like, torch.
That whole scene is so. The whole movie builds. It's just a great movie. I love that movie.
Absolutely. I next time I go back and rewatch it, it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm gonna notice so many of those young actors in it now. It's like
Yeah,
Austin Butler was in it, and Margaret Qualley was like. There's so many
yeah.
young actors who hadn't blown up yet, and that movie came out what 6 years ago, I think it is,
Making me feel old, man.
and so many of those actors have like blown up since
Yeah.
then. So now, Nigel, what's a movie character you feel like you connect with on a personal level?
Hmm. I think everybody connects with Rocky to an extent, even if you're not a
Mhm.
fighter and even if you don't have that personality. I think connect with him. I'm trying to think of something other than the same four films I've mentioned, but I really don't know. If I think of something, I'll blurt it out and interrupt you. But I think any character that sort of you mentioned The Verdict with Paul Newman. I think we all
Mhm.
feel like that sometimes, like kind of like wow, I kind of to put it in modern terms, I got to lock in. I've done nothing, you know. But like it's that kind of a desperation, and he has all those things holding him back in the film, you know. And we don't need to analyze the film or anything like that, but
Well,
I get his character in there.
well, and I think that's a pretty universal kind of feeling once you get to a point where you're just like, if you're doing the same thing for a long time, and sometimes you just get complacent or you just get comfortable and you're
Yeah,
not really pushing yourself any more, and you need that like spark. Obviously, that's an extreme spark, this whole entire
right.
case that comes onto his, but that's what movies are about. Movies are about
Yeah.
giving us something dramatic and interesting to engage us, but then on some level, just being like, oh, I know that feeling.
Well, that's what it is in Rocky too. And if he,
Exactly.
by the luck of the draw, he got that shot, you know. And if he didn't get the shot, he would have just sat there feeling that way, you know.
Well, and he proved that he can go the distance, and that's what the
Yeah,
movie's all about.
proved it to
And then
himself.
he got the win the next time.
That's
So
it.
there you go.
And 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 happened. And yeah.
Yeah. Now, what film do you love that you feel like would surprise people?
Um, mm, mm. Surprise people that I love it, or surprise people that I've seen it.
I guess that could be on multiple levels if you
Okay.
think about it that way.
There's a very obscure film. Well, not the most obscure I have probably, but it's I got it on DVD. It's called Where Pigeons Go to Die, and it's stars Michael Landon. It was a TV movie, and
Interesting.
it's I think it's based on a book. I could be wrong about that. Don't quote me on that. And it's a very nice movie about a well, I don't even know how to describe it. He basically he goes back to his childhood home and he remembers growing up there with his grandfather, and it's a pretty nice movie. And another crazy movie I have is called Salt and Pepper from
Hmm.
1968, maybe, with Peter Lawford and Sammy Davis Jr. And
Sounds
that's
like a fun time.
that's an obscure movie to have. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like the third and fourth build members of the Rat Pack leading the movie together.
It's
It's
like they couldn't get Frank or Dino to come along.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
With that.
Well, let's get these guys here. Yeah.
It's like, where were they at? But my last question for you, Nigel, is what do you love most about movies?
I I love the way they make you feel and think,
Hmm.
and it's a very distinct art form. I don't think anything's like it, and I don't think it's just entertainment. I don't think social media can replace it, and I get disappointed if I spend a good bit of time on social media in a week and I haven't sat down and watched a movie or two because you get a lot more
Hmm.
out of a movie, a good movie anyway, and it helps you feel and empathize with things you wouldn't understand otherwise. I saw a movie. I'm trying to remember what it's called, Love Liza, with Philip Seymour Hoffman and
Okay.
his wife. This is before the movie starts, so this isn't even a spoiler. She kills herself, and he left him a note, and the whole movie is about he can't bring himself to open this note, and it's a very sad movie, as you can imagine. But
Hmm.
um, but what's nice about it is, like, as I watched it, I was like, why was that movie made? Why did it mean something to me? I was just kind of thinking about it, and it's because if that's a situation, Lord willing, hopefully I'll never be in, but
Yeah.
then you can understand something someone else is going through and in a strange way conceive of or live through some of it to a degree that you wouldn't be able to otherwise. I mean, we talked about westerns as a period pieces.
Hmm.
I never lived in the 1800s. I never will. And it lets you enter these times or these old like Pride and Prejudice, Downton Abbey type
Yeah.
films. You enter a world that you'll never get to live in. And yeah, I get that it's a fictional understanding of that world, or it might be fantasy at all. But you're experiencing and understanding things in a way that you can't get just from telling a story or reading a
Hmm.
book. You could get a lot of things out of those, and those are different, and you get a lot of things out of those that you don't necessarily get from film either. Um, but I think film is very distinct, and I think it's a wonderful medium for telling stories, and I hope it's around a lot longer than maybe a foreboding seems.
Here's the hoping. And
Yeah,
it's very interesting because I know we were chatting a little bit about like if I'd seen The Long Walk, and that's a film that like I felt things the
yeah,
whole time, and I felt for those characters. I'm like, I would want to be friends with these characters, and
yeah,
then you see horrible things happening to these characters, and it's just gutting. And the same weekend, the Downton Abbey grand finale comes out, and I saw that, and
yeah,
I had a smile on my face the whole entire time because it's just one of those kinds of things that just has there's so much joy about the experience, and those are
yeah,
both films, and both made me feel things
yeah.
consistently through the whole entire film. Just very different experiences. And I think that's the magic of what movies can do is really make you feel things and connect with things.
I,
And absolutely.
and
But
like
Nigel,
I don't know you very well at all, but we jump on here, we start talking about movies, and immediately
yeah,
there's a connection. You know what I mean? There's something that
yeah,
it's a shared experience. I didn't watch it in the same theater as you. These weapons, let's say, 'cause we mentioned that, or
yeah.
Eddington. But we both experienced the film and understand the characters and the story. So there's a universal side of it too.
Most of my friends I've made through movies. So there you
Yeah.
go, building those kinds of connections. But Nigel, I always like to wrap up my show by having my guests ask me a question. So, what would you like to ask the Wasteland reviewer?
Are you going to make a movie anytime? Is it on
You
the bucket?
see, I I've gotten much where I am right now in my life is much closer than I ever have been to actually trying to do something. And even
Okay.
if it's just because one, it's a lot easier to pull the trigger and make something because
Yeah.
you like people are making movies with this
Yeah.
and it's not going to be like the most high tech film but like you can make something and I've had ideas bouncing around in my head for since I was in college. God, it's been 14 years since I first started like really thinking about like a story, and like I've had a few stories that have been in my head for literally 14 years, and basically like I could watch them in my head at this point. I've thought about them so much,
Yeah.
and to be fair, they're a little ambitious. Might
Yeah.
not be the best thing to make as a first movie. But like
Full send.
even I've had other ideas of like little things, even just doing like little animation and stuff like that, stories. And I would like to hope that someday I will. Because like I have a full-time job and like I work at a college. That's my full-time job and stuff like
Right.
that. And it's like I have other responsibilities and stuff like that, and I
Yeah.
do all of this on the side for fun. But maybe someday I'll finally like just get that right nudge to
Yeah.
actually be able to do something or get the right opportunity. I would like to say by the time that I leave this place that I've made a movie at some point. So I
Yeah.
appreciate your question.
Yeah. No, that'd be cool.
But Nigel, thank you so much for coming on and chatting movies with me.
Well, thank you. And thank you for watching Buried on Shine Mountain. I appreciate that a lot.
Absolutely. Where can people find the film? Where could they be looking out for it?
Yeah, right now it's on physical media only. Actually, you can get it on Amazon, Walmart, I think, other places.
Awesome.
But we're looking at distribution deals now, and very soon. Really, if you wanted to follow up on our social media, probably I'll say within. I don't want to put a timestamp on it because whatever I say, it'll be 2 days after. But I hope within a week or two, we will have an announcement to make on there.
Awesome. And I'll put the social media accounts in the description of the video so people will go
Awesome.
check it out. And I might be inquiring about a copy
Yeah,
on Amazon.
throw,
So,
throw it on that wall behind you. That's awesome.
yep, add it to the collection
What's
of
your
my
favorite on that wall before we go?
my favorite film, like my favorite physical media piece, or just like because like I have all my favorite movies back here. I have
Oh, okay.
I do have my I don't love it as much because like I have the Lord of the Rings trilogy on 4K now. But
Yep.
what disappoints me is the packaging has gotten worse as it got upgraded. The DVDs they released with the extended editions, that beautiful like
The
green,
slide out
red, and
case.
blue
Oh,
boxes were
yeah,
so good.
I
And
agree.
then the Blu-ray one's actually pretty nice too. It's like a gold box and stuff
I
like that.
got
I
that one
actually
too.
kept
It
it.
opens like a book almost.
Yeah,
It's got three
I have
cases.
that sitting right over there.
Yeah.
But like the 4K one just looks like a 4K box, and I'm just like, wow, you really skimped on
Amazing.
making these feel special.
Yeah.
But like those are I love I have a 2001 The Space Odyssey Steelbook 4K, and it
Okay.
just has like Hal on the back of it, and then it has Dave going through the wormhole and like
Okay.
all that red light on his face. And it's a really creepy cover, but it's really cool to look at.
Yeah.
I have some fun ones. I have one of my oldest ones that I've had is my Ben-Hur box set because I'm a huge Ben-Hur fan. And it's like a 6 disc set. It has 2 discs for the Charlton Heston film from 1959 because it's a DVD and they had to
Yeah.
split it because it's a 3.5 hour movie. And then it has the 1920 something silent film version of Ben Hur on a disc, and then it has a bunch of bonus features. It has
Really?
like a nice book and everything. It's a
Cool.
pretty nice box. I remember buying that. I think I bought that from either a Borders or Barnes and Noble way back when. And then that's one of my oldest pieces of physical media that I've had still because I grew up with VHS tapes
Oh yeah.
and then they all got transitioned out. I've been getting DVDs since about 2002, 2003. Um, this is gonna date me, but they used to do through the mail DVD clubs. And like if you
Okay.
signed up for the DVD club, you get like 5 movies for a penny each to start. And then they send you one once a month. And one of my oldest ones is I got Gosford Park, which I did not like as a 11-year-old, but now I do. Because
Okay.
like it's actually from the writer of Downton Abbey, and it's a Robert Altman film. It's a murder mystery. So like a 12-year-old
Okay.
Shane was not super into super British murder mystery, but
No.
33-year-old Shane is. And then Signs was the second one, and that
Yeah.
movie has terrified me since I was a
It's a great movie,
child.
though. I love that movie.
Oh, those jump scares in that movie live on for forever.
Yeah.
Uh, the alien, like the
Walking around
alien
the
leg in the cornfield, walking out from behind the bushes. It's behind a little kid screaming, and then
Mhm.
it just walks out, and you're just like,
Yeah, you don't expect it to be that like there. It's there. You're like, oh my.
the hand on the shoulder in the basement, and then the last jump scare where they turn the TV around and you see the reflection
The
of the TV,
reflection.
and I'm like, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about these because like
It's
those
very
have
good
lived on in my brain since I was 11 years old and watched that way too young.
movie. Very fun
So
though.
my
Mhm.
mom didn't let me watch that for a while after.
Yeah.
But anyway, I have a there's a lot of cool ones that I have here. I have some like a Hitchcock collection, Spielberg collection,
Oh,
stuff like
cool.
that. But a lot of them I bought pretty cheap used at Princeton Record Exchange. If you're ever in Princeton, New Jersey, they have a bunch of cheap used DVDs and Blu-rays from $5 or less. So I
No,
got
that's, no.
a lot of these there because I'm
Sweet.
also cheap. So,
Yeah.
but Nigel, thank you so much for coming on, and I appreciate joining the show.
So thank you so much for having me.
And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.